Tickerguy coming at you from wonderful Niceville, Florida. Today I'd like to speak with you just a bit about the economy, the markets, and our incredible Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke, along with the President. As I'm sure you're aware, gas prices are again on the rise, leading Nancy Pelosi to reprise her shop-worn claim that evil speculators are responsible for the increase in fuel prices. What Ms. Pelosi doesn't want to face, because she'd have to get off her chair and go look in the mirror, is that in point of fact, fuel prices have almost nothing to do with speculation and everything to do with the destruction of capital formation and thus reasonable investment opportunities. This destruction has been caused by monetary policy that has led to zero interest rates. Every senior citizen knows this, as their savings accounts and CDs have dropped to yields that are an effective zero. But what has led to ZIRP? Oh, that's fairly easy. See, in the 1990s, we had an epidemic of fraudulent companies that were set up and traded in the markets. We called this the internet bubble, but in fact it was the internet scam. People with no viable business plans made millions or even billions flipping stock to dupes, that's you by the way, in IPOs and other public offerings. When the pets.coms of the era went bust, you ate it and your retirement was destroyed. All of this alleged wealth generation covered up the offshoring of your labor. Real honest-to-God middle-class jobs that were shipped off to China and India. When the internet bubble burst, both Democrats and Republicans looked for a way to continue the scheme rather than face the music. Enter the housing bubble, where home equity became the new checkbook. A spiral of alleged value increases in home prices and ever larger home equity loans, coupled with refinances, covered up the continuing destruction of middle-class purchasing power. 2008 laid bare some uncomfortable facts. We had believed political promises such as free health care, Medicare and Medicaid, EMTALA and similar that caused the rate of federal health spending to grow at more than 9% annually for the previous 30 years. This took federal health spending from $53 billion in 1980 to more than $800 billion last year. Left unchecked, in less than a decade, federal health spending will approach half the current budget, and in 20 years it will surpass everything the federal government currently spends. This will obviously not happen as long before either point the federal government and our economy will collapse. Similar bubbles were generated in other areas of the economy, including pension plans and perhaps the cruelest of all, higher education, where our young adults are mercilessly scammed via non-dischargeable loans to obtain degrees in pursuit of jobs that offer declining real wages. We must have an honest conversation about what a so-called 2 or 3% inflation target really means. You as a working person, over your 45-year working life from 20 to 65, experience 143% inflation with just a 2% rate. At 3%, the total inflation is 278%. It is impossible to save for retirement with this going on, and that's the entire hidden intent, to force you to take risk. Yet that risk, when it becomes realized, means you go broke and your retirement disappears. None of the political candidates for president, save one, Bill Still, are speaking honestly on this matter. None of the others will, because for them to do so means they must admit to their own culpability in scamming you over the previous 30 years. Yet refusal to face reality doesn't change the mathematics of what is to come. America's available time to ignore these factors has ended. We must today, here and now, confront that which faces this nation head-on and repair our policies on taxes, trade, immigration, defense, and energy. We must stop deficit spending and demand that the Fed target not 2% inflation, but zero inflation that is actually called for in their mandate. We must overhaul not Medicare and Medicaid, but the entire healthcare system in the United States, and Obamacare is not a means of doing so that will work. We must recouple health choices to spending and outcomes, both from an economic and personal perspective. We must collapse the education college debt bubble, deflating the cost of education and restoring fiscal sanity for our young people. And we must prosecute and imprison all those who misled, lied, and committed frauds upon the public, no matter their form and irrespective of their political power, breaking up or closing the respective firms involved. Finally, we must accept the short-term economic pain that will come from these measures, which will be considerable. The readjustment of American life to that which we can produce and actually fund with our own economic output is not going to be pleasant in the short term. There are many who claim that if we do these things there will be civil unrest, politicians will be fired, and there might even be riots. All of these are unknown risks, But even assuming that they are true, we have no choice in the matter. The alternative is that our nation will hit the wall at a literal 100 miles per hour, collapsing government spending by 75% or more within the next 10 to 20 years, and bringing upon the nation an economic and political crisis never before seen. In fact, a crisis much more severe than that which faced the depressions of either 1873 or the 1930s. We as Americans can do better. We must do better, and we must do so now. Thank you.